The moment itself is bureaucratic.
No protests.
No emergency broadcasts. No sudden knock on the door. The change arrives as paperwork. A law passes quietly, framed as public safety, economic stability, and child welfare. It is discussed in hearings, refined in committees, justified with data and concern. By the time most people hear about it, it is already in effect. From now on, having a child requires a license. First, it sounds abstract. People argue online. Commentators debate ethics. Some laugh it off as unenforceable. Others assume it applies only to extreme cases. The language is soft, careful, reassuring. No one is talking about punishment, only responsibility, only standards, only readiness. The illusion holds because nothing happens immediately. Children are still born. Families still exist. Parks are still full. The world looks the same. The rule applies only going forward, and even then, it promises compassion. Education programs, counseling, support. It feels reasonable. After all, society already licenses driving, building, adopting. Why not parenting? Why not protect children from neglect, from instability, from harm that could have been prevented? Many people agree. Some even feel relieved. They believe this will reduce suffering, that fewer unwanted children will mean fewer broken lives, that love, measured and approved, will be safer. The first applications begin.
Couple à temps interview.
Forms are filled out. Income is verified. Psychological evaluations are scheduled. Background checks run quietly through databases. Nothing invasive, just thorough. People prepare like they would for a job. They rehearse answers. They clean up social media. They hide doubts. They learn which words sound stable and which raise flags. Most assume approval is inevitable. They are wrong.
Rejection arrive politely.
Without accusation. Without explanation detailed enough to argue against. Not at this time. Further development recommended. Conditions not yet optimal. Time becomes a factor. Careers advance. Fertility declines. Appeals take months, sometimes years. The first real consequence is invisible. Fear. Not fear of the law, but fear of being judged unworthy of something humans once did without permission. People begin to question themselves, not as partners or workers, but as potential parents. Am I stable enough? Am I calm enough? Am I normal enough? Those questions linger. Meanwhile, unlicensed pregnancies still happen. They are treated as administrative errors. Hospitals report them. Social services intervene. The language avoids the word illegal. Instead, it uses unapproved. Babies are not punished. Parents are assessed. Some children are allowed to stay. Others are placed under supervision. Some are removed quietly, explained away as protective custody. There are no mass scenes, just paperwork. People continue behaving as they always have at first. They fall in love. They dream about families. They assume exceptions will be made. They assume humanity will override policy. But policy is designed to be consistent. Doctors grow cautious. Conversations change tone. Pregnancy is no longer only medical. It is procedural. Joy is paired with anxiety. Every checkup feels like an evaluation. Society adapts language quickly. People stop asking, "Do you want kids?" They ask, "Are you licensed?" The question carries weight. Friendships strain. Licensed parents become subtly different from unlicensed adults. Not superior, but authorized. They speak with a confidence others lack. Their lives feel validated. Unlicensed couples learn to stay quiet. Workplaces adjust. Benefits shift toward approved families. Time off is justified as investment. Unlicensed employees find themselves less accommodated, less prioritized. Not punished, just deprioritized. After all, resources are limited. Education systems follow. Children become categorized early. Licensed-born children receive enhanced tracking, enrichment, attention. Their upbringing is documented as proof of success. Unlicensed-born children are monitored more closely, not out of cruelty, but concern. Concern can feel like suspicion when it never ends. The first real fracture appears socially. Dating changes. People ask about licensing status early. Relationships end not over love, but eligibility. Marriage becomes conditional. Commitment without approval feels risky.
Romance grows cauteloso.
Intimacy becomes calculated. Some people stop forming attachments altogether. Psychologically, the damage spreads quietly. Parenthood was once a gamble, but it was universal. Now it is a privilege granted by criteria that change depending on who enforces them. People internalize the idea that reproduction is not a right, but a reward, and rewards can be revoked. The state insists it does not decide who deserves to exist, only who is ready to create life responsibly. The distinction sounds important. On the streets, nothing looks different, but inside homes, conversations change. People whisper about timelines, about scores, about whether it's safer to wait or risk everything, about what happens if they try without permission. Hospitals stop being neutral places. They become checkpoints. Midwives become reporters. Doctors become intermediaries between biology and authority. Trust erodes not through malice, but obligation. Then comes the first generational shift. Children begin asking why some adults don't have siblings, why some families are watched, why some friends disappear from school quietly. Parents struggle to explain. How do you tell a child that love was once enough? That desire was once sufficient? That now existence requires approval? The law is defended passionately. Statistics improve. Some outcomes look better. Certain forms of neglect decrease. Policymakers point to data and say, "See, this works." And in narrow terms, it does. But something fundamental is changing beneath the surface. The act of creating life has moved from instinct to institution, from impulse to permission, from biology to bureaucracy. People no longer fear being bad parents. They fear being disqualified. And as that fear spreads, society begins to reshape itself around avoidance rather than aspiration. By the time most people realize this is not a temporary experiment, the system is already normalized. Children born under it cannot imagine anything else. Adults learn to justify it because questioning it means questioning their own legitimacy. And slowly, quietly, one truth settles in. This was not about children. It was about control over the future, not through force, through permission. And as humanity adjusts to a world where life itself must be authorized, it becomes clear that something irreplaceable has been lost. This was not reform. It was a fundamental loss. Time passes and resistance fades not because it failed, but because it exhausted itself. The law remains. The procedures expand. What was once an exception becomes routine. People stop arguing about whether the system should exist and start asking how to navigate it successfully. Life reorganizes around permission. Cities feel the same, but demographics shift subtly. Parks grow quieter. Schools become smaller, more controlled, more optimized. Class sizes shrink not from progress, but from scarcity. Every child is now expected, planned, documented. Birthdays feel different. They are no longer just celebrations of life, but confirmations of compliance. Each child represents a file that passed review, a decision that survived scrutiny. Parents speak about their children the way people once spoke about achievements, carefully, proudly, defensively. The idea of an accident disappears. Pregnancy without approval becomes rare, not because biology changed, but because fear did. Surveillance is not constant, but awareness is. Missed cycles are reported. Clinics notify agencies. Silence becomes suspicious. People adapt biologically. Sex becomes cautious. Intimacy decouples from reproduction. Technology fills the gap. Desire survives, but consequence is engineered out. The body becomes something to manage rather than trust. Those who receive licenses early form a quiet upper layer of society. Not elites in wealth, but in legitimacy. Their families are framed as investments that paid off. Their children are monitored as success stories. Data follows them everywhere, performance, behavior, emotional development, all feeding back into the system that justified their existence. Unlicensed adults form a different culture. Some wait endlessly, hoping to qualify. Others give up and redefine fulfillment around work, pets, hobbies, digital worlds. Many carry a quiet grief they never name because naming it feels like failure. Social tension does not explode, calcifies. Family gatherings become uncomfortable. Questions go unanswered. Licensed parents are asked for advice they did not earn. Unlicensed relatives are treated gently, like people recovering from something permanent. Language changes again. People stop saying mother and father casually. They say approved parent. They stop saying trying for a baby. They say applying again. Love becomes procedural. Children notice everything. They grow up aware that they were chosen not just by their parents, but by a system. Some feel special. Others feel pressure. A few feel guilt, wondering what disqualified the children who were never born. Identity becomes tangled with approval. Teenagers worry not just about grades and friends, but about future evaluations. Emotional volatility feels dangerous. Nonconformity feels risky. Self-expression is filtered through imagined assessors who will one day decide whether they are allowed to pass life forward. Rebellion changes form. It is no longer loud or collective. It is private and biological. Some people choose to reproduce illegally and disappear. Underground networks form not to overthrow the state, but to escape it. Children grow up off-record, without documentation, without protection, without recognition. They exist, but they are invisible. The system responds by tightening definitions. Citizenship becomes cleaner. Statistics improve. Outcomes look better on paper. Governments present graphs showing reduced abuse, reduced neglect, reduced poverty per child. They are not lying, but they are not measuring everything. Something essential is missing from the data. Human unpredictability, human excess, human error, the very chaos that once made societies resilient. Over time, culture grows risk-averse. Innovation slows. Art loses its rawness. Stories become safer, more curated. Characters behave correctly. Mistakes are framed as learning modules, not tragedies. Surprise becomes undesirable, because surprise cannot be licensed. Biology responds quietly, as it always does. Populations with strict licensing age faster. Youth becomes rare, precious, protected. The working population shrinks. Care systems strain under the weight of longevity without replacement. The future becomes smaller each year, not catastrophically, but steadily. Governments adjust quotas. Standards shift. What once disqualified now disqualifies less. But the authority to decide remains unquestioned. That is the true permanence. People begin to realize that the license was never about readiness. It was about narrative. Who gets to continue the story? Who gets to represent the future? The system does not collapse. It stabilizes. And that stability feels convincing, until a generation grows up having never known a world where life was unapproved. To them, the idea that anyone could create a human without oversight feels reckless, almost barbaric. They defend the system sincerely, not because they are cruel, because it is all they know. Looking back, historians struggle to pinpoint when the shift became irreversible. There was no single abuse, no dramatic overreach, just layers of justification built on good intentions. The belief that suffering could be engineered away. The belief that control equals care. The belief that permission is safer than trust. Humanity does not disappear in this world. It becomes curated, filtered, optimized. And in that optimization, something ancient fades. The wildness of continuation. The irrational courage to bring life into uncertainty. The quiet defiance of loving without guarantee. Man does not stop reproducing. He stops risking himself in the process. And when life becomes something that must be earned rather than dared, the future loses its sharp edges. It becomes safer, smaller, and less human. This was not the end of families. It was the end of faith in the unmeasured. And once that faith is gone, no license can ever bring it back.